It's been a long time since the new server formula started for Cipsoft, and it continues to be successful for them. This is the release of new servers every 3 months or so, varying in the PvP type and locations. This is not a secret to anyone, and often ends up having the same comments against it. Why bother releasing a new server only for it to be merged in 2 years or so? Well, the reason is simple. It's because it works, and it is very profitable for them as a company. So the question becomes, why is it that they still continue to work and bring in players for these servers? And that is the focus of this video. But before I go into that, here is a disclaimer. As a content creator, especially with a lot of it focused on new servers, it does benefit me to be positive about them. But personally, I do enjoy new servers, and I haven't gone hardcore or spent lots of money in any of them. In fact, I actually do the opposite, and I tend to be open about it, because I see new servers as a fresh source of entertainment, and there is some good things that come from them, just like there is also negatives, of course. So let's start right off. The reason new servers are a big source of income for Cipsoft is because a lot of the resources needed in order to play are sold in the store. So it is the closest version of a pay-to-win competition, and a lot of people join in for that, which for the most part cannot be ever won by them. In order to become the first place of a server and hold it, money is not enough. Time and efficiency becomes the key. Also, having a team with the same mindset and willing to put money as well will definitely get you far. You can also get there solo, but it's much harder to do so, and twice the amount of time will be needed. But regardless, the reason I mentioned this is because, as I said in this disclaimer, I haven't done this kind of grind. I think going into a new server with the goal of being top 1 is not worth it. The amount of money spent won't be recovered, and you are likely to burn out faster. There is nothing to gain from being top 1. However, by being consistent and continue to play, you can easily be top 100 or top 50 and even more. For example, the last new server I joined was Solera, a non-PvP server. It was released almost 3 months ago, and I'm sitting at rank 40, which I have been there for the majority of the server, along with the rest of my team within the same range. And this is with a team that mostly farms and plays maybe 3 to 4 days a week. We were very consistent at the start, but then later on slowed down, and we are much more casual now, and that is fine for us. Another example I would like to use is the current top 1 team. They were not the top team during the first 2 months. In fact, they were switching between top 2 and 3, and they only eventually passed the team in first place because that team stopped playing. In reality, the strategy of those people rushing for top 1 nowadays is to get strong enough to win the Ferombra's hat and then quit after, depending on the state of the server. So unless you plan on competing with someone with that mindset, there is no reason to do so. Eventually you will pass them, and even if you don't, being within the top 100 of your server is quite good already. So just don't think of that and play at your own pace. I believe a budget of 500 TCs is more than enough for any solo player. That will cover you as long as you're being smart about it, and then with the goal in game you continue further. In the case of teams, you do need more because the hunts are more wasteful, but if the team wants to play it easier and slower, you can reduce the waste as well. And I want to elaborate further in this point. The economy of a new server. A big chunk of the players in these servers come with the intention of making profit. Because new servers start off fresh, the only source of gold is through players. Tibia coins can only be sold or traded for gold with players. Unlike other games where you will use money to buy gold from the developers, here you are buying the coins which you trade with a player. So the need of supply and demand is what keeps the market active. But this is not only for the benefit of those so-called farmers. In fact, anyone benefits from this by playing, as every gold coin you get is far more valuable than in a regular server. And this goes on with items, because items are also very scarce and it takes a lot of time for the demand to be fulfilled. So even casual or normal players that eventually get to the point of doing bosses, like for example an Oberon, Scarlet or Malulu and so on, getting any drop from them is going to be like 3 to 5 times more valuable than a normal server. For example, in Bytera, the first couple Falcon grips will sell for over 5k coins, but in a normal server, they are worth just a bit over 1k. This incentivizes all players to join in for bosses, even those that don't like the content, which is not really the case for other servers. Usually, the less valuable an item becomes, the less people will want to do that boss. For example, making a profit of 50k in one hunt in a new server might get you 25 coins early on, but in a normal server you will be getting 1 instead, so your time spent in the hunts and the progress of your character is more valuable during a new server. Although this won't always be the case, it should be for a good amount of time, which will be the third point of discussion, time. The main argument against new servers is that all of this is pointless and meaningless because the end goal is clear from the start. The servers will be open for transfer from other ones and also eventually be merged, wiping you out from being in the top 100 to top 500 in one day. This is true and everyone knows about this. And my counter argument for this is the time it will take you to get to that point. To this day, Bytera still remains a closed server, and it was released on February 8 of 2023, so a bit over a year and 3 months since then, and I will expect maybe another 3 to 9 months before it's open for transfers. This is part of the formula of the new servers. For example, Esmera is the non-PvP that came before, released on March 2022 and open for transfer in October 2023. So about 1 year and 7 months before people were able to transfer into that server, and it still has not been merged. This is a lot of time. If you compare it with other MMOs that usually start off good and the hype lasts for less than 3 months, or even more active MMOs that use the seasonal system, and Tibia sort of guarantees having your progress more or less unaffected by the economy outside of the server for over a year and a half, which is quite a lot when you think about it from this perspective. I think that is a positive aspect of playing in a new server, even with the end result inside, and depending on the level you get, your character might hold a value comparable to other servers. Because nowadays, with the character bazaar and transfers, people are buying characters often, not so much because they are good in terms of skills or investments, but rather because of their level and if they can be used for high level quests like Soul War, Primal Ordeal, and Rotten Blood. But that is the value of the character itself. Inside of the server should be more valuable as long transfers are blocked, but it comes with heavy downsides. For one, just as I mentioned with the value of items being high and benefiting those that get them, it also hurts those that are just looking to buy them. Most of the equipment improvements are far more expensive than in a normal server, and often the options are also limited by the supply of the server. You can get to level 400 and there won't be any software equipment available to upgrade because there is not enough supply of them. Another much more important downside is that even though the servers are technically guaranteed to remain online and close off from transfers for over a year, it doesn't mean the community of the server will remain active throughout its time. Just like my example of new MMOs dying in 1 month, new servers suffer from this as well, partly because the formula is so repetitive and within 3 months there is a new release that usually has the same new server player base moving in and repeating the process, resulting in a lot of dead servers, and in the case of PvP-oriented servers, these often will remain active as long the PvP continues, but once a guild wins the war, then the servers become a lot less appealing, especially when said guild tries to enforce some sort of rules in the player base. So again, why bother doing this if the ending point is so clear in most cases? There is a few reasons that come to mind. One of them is that the lower level content and the grind aspect of it is more enjoyable in the lower levels, while also having less risks associated to them. For example, you can buy yourself a high skill character in a normal server or even spend money to train the skills to a point you like, and then with one death, a lot of progress is lost. However, in new servers with characters being weaker in terms of skills and also in levels, one death doesn't feel nearly as punishing because all of it can be recovered quickly. And also having a big variety of spawn choices to hunt and a never-ending source of grinds like doing quests, bestiary, bosses, and more will keep you entertained for longer. A good example is my new server Team Blocks, where in early videos of the series, I will cover more than 5 different spawns for a single video, but on the more recent ones of the series, the content is more repetitive, and that in turn does become less enjoyable. In my opinion, the enjoyment of the early months is greater, and you end up becoming more attached to the progress, making it worth it in the end, but that will be different from player to player. Another point that I briefly mentioned is ended up in a dead server. This is quite common, and I want to make a different video covering what is a dead server. But for this conversation, I want to focus on 2 things. The player base of the new servers at the start is much more active than the regular ones, bringing in players that are solo, duos, and full teams. This makes the server feel much more alive, and it is a lot easier to find people to join in for team hunts, quests, and bosses. Unlike in normal server, even if the player base is of over 100 to 150 online players, which for Green Battle Eyes is quite good, and all the new servers we get are Green Battle Eye, so let's focus on that. In those servers, the majority of players will be on the higher end of levels. Not necessarily all high levels, but the ratio of being over 100 to 500 and to 1k is much bigger. So a new player joining in those servers almost never finds a group of people to play with at his level range. So in my opinion, new servers are more welcoming to that set of players. and hopefully by the time the servers start to die off, people have gotten some progress, done quests, and met new people that could become teammates. And once you do have a team, then being on a dead server is actually much better. There is less competition for spawns, less drama involved, and even on PvP servers, the so-called dominados are much weaker because the player base is lower and often ends up being a lot less harmful because they don't want the server to become even more dead. And that is another positive aspect of the new servers. So in my opinion, the pros of playing them is that they are more enjoyable, you get to meet new people, it's easier to find teams and group for bosses, and your progress is more valuable, making it feel more rewarding. The downside is that they are more expensive to play. If you never find a team you want to play with, then it does get harder later on, and your progress will eventually be cut in 1 year or 2 later down the line. So if you want to try it out coming back into Tibia, or just enjoying a few months from the game, then a new server can be good for you. If you're looking to play the game for the long run, and especially if you're okay with doing the lower level content solo, then go ahead and start in a normal server. Although I highly recommend to buy off a character from the bazaar with some decent skills because that is by far the most time consuming and also the most expensive thing to get. That's all I got for this video. Please feel free to share your opinions in the comments. I know this might be a controversial take, but let's open up the debate. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to the Guild Causality from Pulsera, to Night Star and Tuna Hero for supporting this channel.